It was a crisp winter evening in 2024 when Emily, a struggling artist, found herself standing in line at the busy cafe, waiting for her usual cup of coffee. Life had been hard lately. Her art was not selling, and the rent was due. The last thing she accepted that day was to cross paths with a man who would unknowingly change her life. As she reached the counter, Emily noticed the man ahead of her. He was wearing a warm jacket, a beanie pulled low over his face, and seemed to be in a rush. She couldn't help but stare. There was something about him that felt familiar. Without thinking, Emily stepped forward. "Excuse me, you dropped this," she said, handing with a crumpled wallet she had found laying on the ground. The man looked up, surprised, and as their eyes met, Emily realized who it was. Keanu Reeves, the reclusive musician and actor everyone was talking about, the one whose music had touched millions. Yet he rarely left his house. "Thank you," Keanu said, his voice sincere but tired. "I owe you one." "It's nothing," Emily replied with a soft smiling, hoping he would not make a big deal out of it. He nodded, and she watching him walk out the door, wondering if their brief encounter would ever mean anything. The next morning, Emily life took an unexpected turn. A new story broke about a famous musician who had spoken out in an interview, not about his career, but anonymous act of kindness he had experienced. Keanu Reeves had shared a story about a woman who had helped him in a cafe without accepting anything in return. She did not ask for recognition. She did not even ask for thanks. Keanu said in the interview, his voice carrying an emotional weight that made Emily's heart skip a beat. "She reminded me of what it means to be human again. I don't even know her name, but I want to find her." Emily phone buzzed with message from friend. "Is this you?" One text read. Her heart raced. Could it be? Was Keanu talking about her? Emily tried to ignore the mounting excitement and doubts in her chest. She did not need fame or any more attention. She just needed to survive. But then the unaccepted happened. Keanu reached out through social media. "I will be looking for you." The message read, "You changed my life that day, and I want to return the favor." That evening, as Emily wandered the street of her small neighborhood, lost in thought, she heard a familiar voice call her name. Turning around, she came face to face with Keanu Reeves. His eyes were warm, but there was a sadness in them that mirrored her own. "I've been thinking about that moment," she said, his voice soft. "You did something so simple, but it meant everything to me. I want to help you in any way I can." Emily felt her throat tighten. "I'm fine," she said, forcing a smile. But Keanu Reeves was not buying it. He could see through her facade. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch comforting. "You don't have to lie to me," Keanu Reeves said. "Let me help." "I know." Before she could protest, he handed her an envelope. Inside was a check for more money than she had ever seen her write. "I know what it felt like to struggle. You don't have to accept it," he said. "But please don't let the world take away your kindness. The world needs more people like you in her life." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she looked at him. She wanted to refuse, but the truth was, she was drawing. His simple act of kindness had shaken her to her core. Later that evening, she stared at the check, contemplating what to do. Her phone buzzed again. It was a video from her best friend John. "You need to see this," the message read. Emily clicked the link and her heart sank. Keanu Reeves was standing outside a hospital speaking to reporter. "My sister battling cancer," he said, his voice breaking. "I've been struggling, but I want to thank the person who reminded me, even in the darkest time, there's hope." Emily watched as Keanu Reeves' sister was helped into the hospital, her frail forecasting a shadow over the scene. Keanu Reeves was not just offering her money, he was offering her hope in the time of despair. The next day, Emily made a decision. He visited the hospital when she arrived. She was led through the quiet halls and into a small room where Keanu Reeves was sitting by his sister's bedside. He looked up, his eyes wide in surprise. Emily, he sighed softly and standing up. I did not accept you come. I just wanted to thank you. Emily replied, her voice trembling. For every his sister, weak but smiling, greeted her with warmth. You made a difference, she said, her voice full of gratitude. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emily felt like she belonged. She was not just a struggling artist anymore. She was part of something bigger. A connection formed not through the charity but through raw, unspoken empathy. As Emily left the hospital later that day, the Keanu Reeves pulled her aside. You have changed my life, he said quietly, and now I want to be there for you. Emily's heart swelled with emotion as she realized that sometimes the smallest act of kindness could create the biggest ripples.